Tonight on the live stream of consciousness, I'll be talking to psychic medium Joseph Diero. Join me. Hello. Hello, I'm back. I was away for a second. Welcome to the live stream of consciousness, my happy place. I am Michael Zinn. Why is this my happy place? Well, it's a place that I've created with my own intention, and that's why I'm happy, because now I'm here, now you're here, and we're in this moment and sharing it together. And even if you're watching in the replay, you're here, and I'm here, so to speak, in the replay. And speaking of that, I know that Ninja Kitty wasn't feeling well today. She said she was going to have to miss the show. So she'll probably be catching the replay. So I'm going to jump forward in time and say, shout out to Ninja Kitty. And she won't be seeing it right now. She'll be seeing it in the future. So I think I just time traveled forward. That's cool. Anyway, you're here. We're here. It is April 27th. Holy moly. I just remember saying in the first week of April how fast it seemed to be going. The year that was April already, and now it's the end of April. Holy moly. Well, I guess that's because a lot of stuff is happening energetically in the universe. You know, I love to talk about that stuff. And I think my guest tonight also is interested in talking about some of that stuff. So let me do a little introduction. Tonight's guest I met on an appearance of Janice's show. Janice, my girlfriend, she's doing a show called Unique Peace, which kind of came out of nowhere. My girlfriend is usually super introverted and decided that she wanted to create something intentionally to push herself outside of her comfort zone and discuss some things, and it just became this magical kind of journey for her. She has come out of her shell. She's so comfortable and so good at it, and she has some amazing conversations. One of them being my guest tonight, Joseph Diero, who is a psychic medium, a feng shui consultant, and a visual artist, a combination of some amazing talents and things that we're going to talk about. So I guess let's welcome him to the show. Welcome to the show, Joseph Diero. What's happening?
Hello, Mike. How are you?
I'm great. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? It's
It's Dyro.
Dyro. Okay. See, I knew something was telling me to ask. I was just kind of intuitively trying to pronounce it. It's spelled D''Airo, and so it was tricky, but something told me to ask. So it's Joseph Dyro. Everybody, welcome Joseph Dyro.
Hello, everyone.
I correct myself. We've got the quiet healer out there saying hello. We've got Fun Mommy out there saying hello. We've got Jilly. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Good to see everybody. So I don't know if you've seen my show before. I basically like to have spiritual conversations about energy and all of these cool things that we were talking a little bit about before the show. But there's a couple of kind of initiation questions that I ask. And
Initiation. All right.
well, I ask the same question to all my guests, and the answer is always the same but different. It kind of grows every time I ask the question, and it doesn't need to. You can take as long as you want to answer. It doesn't need to be in one sentence, or if you think you got something simple, that's great too. And the question is, what is consciousness? This is the live stream of consciousness. What is consciousness?
My interpretation, because I'll just say everyone, this is my interpretation of it. If it aligns with yours, great. And if not, there's just always perspective on this. But consciousness is energy taking a form that needs to direct something.
Great. I love it. I love it. And because that can really apply to so many different things. Physical, non-physical, metaphysical,
Yes.
yeah, thoughts, those kinds of things, which is great. Awesome.
To me,
All right. So
thought is energy.
say that
Like
again.
our thoughts are energy.
Our thoughts are absolutely energy. And I love thinking about that, which is kind of ironic, isn't it? um, before we get into that stuff, the other question that I usually ask is actually a good segue into kind of talking about you and what you do and creating some space for you. And I know as a psychic medium, you definitely have experience with things that we are not taught about in school. Um,
Oh no.
realities that we're not taught about in school. So the question I like to ask is there a specific moment that you can remember when you realized that some things were not quite, what not quite as simple as they're presented to us. We're not quite as complex as they're presented to us.
I have to say my earliest memory was I think I was 5 years old, and I remember my great grandfather passed away, but I was aware of it kind of before it happened. And it's like I knew it, like it had, as a 5 year old, you're not really hearing what the adults are saying,
Mhm,
but I was
mhm,
just aware of this.
mhm, mhm,
And it's
mhm,
just like I think that was just simply my earliest memory,
mhm, mhm,
but I've always been able to kind of see spirit and just be aware of energies around me,
mhm,
even as a little kid. But this runs in my family.
mhm, mhm,
We didn't talk about it when I was a kid. We talked about it when I became an adult. There's later discussions, just everybody opened up about, hey, we're all kind of doing this, and we're all
mhm,
just
mhm.
exploring this as best we possibly can.
Right, right. Well, I think it takes a while to interpret it, right? To kind of
Yes.
figure out exactly what's going on. And I've heard that often, with that question, people remember when they're younger, somebody in their family or somebody close passing away and not being told specifically, but knowing, right?
Yes.
And I think so that's like the basic idea, right, of being a psychic medium, but it's kind of, can you describe that knowing? Like, how did you know that that was different than a regular thought or a regular feeling?
I think what I've over time, I've kind of learned to differentiate. This idea or thought is coming in way too fast for me to be thinking about it or
Mhm,
like making it up, which is how I interpret when I talk to spirit. If I'm not hearing them directly, like the audio in my ear, it's just like this is coming way too fast. I can't possibly be trying to fabricate this in my
mhm,
head.
mhm,
It's just
mhm,
there, and I
mhm,
go with it. And I
mhm,
just
mhm,
say when I'm reading a client, I'm presenting them with whatever's popping into my head.
mhm, mhm,
But
mhm,
that's how I've specifically learned how to differentiate because I'm like, this is coming way too fast for me to be thinking about it.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
And then as the intuitive knowing, like I've also again over time developed where all right, I can feel something coming about where like this isn't my thoughts, this is coming from somewhere else,
mhm,
which is a
mhm,
little hard to explain,
mhm.
but very often it's like a very good feeling, especially
Sure.
if I'm channeling higher dimensions.
Mhm,
And I'm like, all
mhm,
right, this is a good feeling, followed by here's just a ton of info that I have to spit out of my mouth in a very brief amount of time right now.
mhm, mhm, mhm. So, I mean, we've talked about the concept of channeling here on the show, and that comes in various forms. People channel entities, but I think psychic mediums, it's a kind of channeling too, right? You're connected to the other side, but you're connecting to specific energies related to people that are here presently that have passed on, right? That's
Right.
like, from my understanding, what the difference between psychic medium or mediumship and psychic and intuitive. Those are all different levels of kind of being connected, right?
All different levels. I love what my teacher, who's Pat Longo, who's a healer on Long Island,
She's
when she
awesome.
described it. Yes, she described that. every medium is a psychic, but not every psychic is a medium.
Right.
Because I guess to be a medium, you need I guess you need to be able to do the psychic thing as well,
Right. Right. Right.
channel out. Because even when I'm not specifically talking to a spirit, there still can be information just floating out there that I'm grabbing onto and able to talk about or hear or listen, and I can't always pinpoint who is this coming from, where exactly is this coming from. It still feels good, but I'm like, there's not a specific person to identify it with. It's just information that's there.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Excellent. Excellent. So, we also, we kind of we have a little bit of a background here, and I'm saying we as the live stream of consciousness, um, in some of the things we're talking about. So, we're talking about the different clairs, right? And now you're talking about specifically clairaudience, right?
Yes,
You hear. Are you clair other stuff too, or?
yes, clairsentient.
Mhm,
Oh, the feelings come in a lot when I'm talking to people, or
mhm,
I get impressions. Often when I have a client in front of me, like I may not, because sometimes like I only have a short period of time where
mhm,
I can't get everything I'm experiencing. I can't express it all, but I'm feeling either what my client's feeling, what the person I'm channeling was feeling, depending on what we were talking about, feeling it, hearing it, seeing it. And
mhm,
sometimes this is happening to me all day
mhm,
where
mhm.
I'm out in the world and like I've learned to control and direct some things, but
Right.
otherwise I can't, I can see things mostly in my head or hearing it in my head, but I also hear audio, which
Mhm, mhm,
took a long time to get used to, honestly. It's like because of
mhm,
a voice that's just there without somebody attached to it.
mhm, mhm.
But let's see, so it's clairaudient, clairsentient. Um, I want to say all the clairs
Well,
because
yeah, clairvoyant seeing, right? Clairvoyant is, and again, I talk to a lot of psychic mediums, and I love hearing the different but similar ways that they connect to spirit. So, how do you know what that voice or what those feelings like, what they're connected to? How does that come through to you? Is it, I mean, symbolism? Is it something that's related to yourself? Is it something that's very clear and obvious and literal?
more so now, it's become more literal
Hmm.
and just I'll say a voice that is I can recognize there's a voice in my head that is not mine.
Hmm.
Like doesn't feel like me, doesn't sound like me. I don't relate it to myself or my identity. It's something else. So
Hmm.
that in that sense, it becomes very clear. Okay, this is somebody who wants me to say something to the person in front of me, and then I ask spirit questions like, give me your personality and what about this? What about that? So while I'm speaking to somebody, I'm asking spirit in my head a million questions.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
to not just prepare me for the next thing to say, but also so I can get an idea of like who they are, so I can, I mean, present
Validate.
that, but also so it's I have in the moment the clarity of who am I talking to.
Right. Right. And also, I think you need to, and I didn't mean to step on you. It's so funny because I love talking about this, but like, it's interesting what you said because you're talking to the person and trying to say, "Hey, I'm supposed to be telling you something," but also while you're having that conversation physically in your mind, you're having a conversation with the spirit saying, "Okay, are you male? Are you female?" I mean, these things that you can now convey and validate with this person that you're
Yes.
actually talking to.
And depending on the energy that I'm connecting to, because some of them are clearer than others, I don't need to ask, are you male or female? If they just come, the impression just comes, you're a woman, or you're a man or a woman, you're a mom or the dad, or you're the grandma or the grandpa, or even whoever other family members you can possibly be.
Right.
They do use because I learned that way to use symbolisms, but I'll say through the years, I use them. I mean, they still come up, but I use them less and less because I guess I've learned to recognize what the energy feels like and what I can
Mhm.
relate it to get the message across. Because
Awesome.
my intention when I read anybody is I want to give them what they need, and I need to do it in the quickest way possible.
Right.
And I mean, I guess it's personal training to feel what this energy is without asking as many questions.
Right. Right. And how long have you been doing this for?
13 years professionally.
Oh,
Over
wow.
13 years. Um, yes, I think it's over 13 years
Okay,
professionally.
fun mommy saying it's good to hear there are other people out there like me.
Yes.
Do you encounter that often? Do people come up to you after Do you do group readings?
I do groups.
Okay, do people come up to you afterwards and say and tell you about their own experiences
Every
in
so often, somebody it dep not every time, but every so often,
psychology?
I am encountering more people who are opening up or realizing that they have communicative abilities,
Mhm.
and it's nice. It's nice to be like, "Okay, I'm not the only crazy person in the room."
Right, right. Do you get that a lot? People think you're crazy, or are
No,
people
I really just say that to make fun of myself.
right, right. Well,
I mean, if
I
people
think
really think I'm crazy, they're not telling me, at least not
right.
the people
Well,
who
I
come
don't
here.
think those are the people who are, coming to your group readings to see you
No,
do a
no,
group reading.
no.
They're if they think you're crazy, they're staying away from that, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So usually the crowds are much more open and receptive to it. Um, and are you finding more and more acceptance as time goes on? Because I think, we were talking earlier about where we're at as a race and where this planet is at and the vibration and all that. Are you finding that is affecting what you do in a positive way?
Yeah, oh, yes. There's a lot more acceptance, a lot more openness to whatever this could be.
Mhm,
A lot more people are open to energy. A lot more people are become sensitive to energy.
mhm,
They may not be hearing a message, but they're aware that somebody's around them or something's around them or
mhm,
there's something going on that they're just feeling and that's all they could describe. But it's more building up more and more. But that's also from my perspective, it's supposed to be that way now.
mhm, mhm.
We're in this we're in this new era of the world and we're completely in 5D, and that just represents that everybody in some levels opening up to all this in their own experiences. It helps that people are comfortable talking to each other and coming up and talking to me about it, but they're experiencing it too.
Right. Right, right, right. Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I've definitely been aware of a lot of the concepts and a lot of the feelings, for as long as I can remember, but I certainly see a more and more people becoming aware of it and accepting of it, and not calling each other crazy, and also encountering people who understand the concept of it and maybe experience it, maybe don't, but who have children who are experiencing it and are able to now talk to their kids about it and explain to them what it is rather than the old school being like, oh, they're imaginary friends, and all of the things that we grew up with, like, oh yeah, okay, that's just normal kid stuff, you know what I mean? And that's why I was saying I feel like it's a lot more common than people you know talk about. You know what I mean? I think a lot more people have experiences with their own intuition and connections with whatever it might be, whether it be spirit guides or whether it be actually other energies that were connected, in a family way or a close way. Um, it's really great to see that stuff. So okay.
Kids are very open and aware, and I do a lot of house clearings and blessings,
Hmm.
and a lot of most of the time, honestly, it's the parents calling because their kids are experiencing, something around them, and very often it's not something bad, they just don't know what to do with it. They
Right.
feel it and they
Right.
feel somebody's, like, standing there, and they don't know why or who. So, they ask me to come in, just clear it all out, tell everybody to leave, which I do, but I'm fascinated with, like, all the kids
Hmm.
are experiencing. I mean, some of the parents are experiencing it as well,
Hmm.
but the kids mostly, they're just they're sensitive and, um, I'll say some of the parents they just don't know what to do with it.
Right. But I mean, even the whole idea that they would call somebody like you to address it in that way, like to, okay, there's a spirit here and I want to clear that spirit. Do you feel like you always need to clear that spirit? Is there any experiences you've had where there was supposed to be a connection and
Very often, yes.
yeah.
Very often it's family members,
Hmm.
people of the family, ancestors, and they're just hanging around, and it's just now the family who is present here, they're aware of them being around them, and they just don't know who they are and what they are, but it's amazing that they're aware of it.
Right.
Because
Right.
I'll say a lot of my clearings now have become, I have to give, like, a little explanation when we're done.
Right.
Like, cause so, like, I'm there for a little while longer. It's like, "Okay, now I'm gonna tell you, like, you're all sensitive, and you're feeling your own family members walking around, and you're
Right.
feeling the other side, and that's what this is. It's not because something bad's going on."
So in a way, you're not really necessarily clearing out that energy, but you're connecting them to that energy in a way that's more comfortable than uncomfortable,
Yes.
right?
I
Right.
mean, every so like, honestly, every so often, there is something that's needs to be cleared out, especially when I do stuff when I do work in the city,
Mhm,
more
mhm.
so. The city's just kind of like, a mess.
You know what? I can't even imagine what it's like spiritually in the city because just as a slight empath, going into the city always gets me really anxious. Just the energy that's going around there. So I can't even imagine spiritually going into the city higher, being more connected intuitively. The spiritual samurai, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. It's a blessing, but doesn't feel like that in the beginning. I have heard that also many, many times, kind of not understanding, or it's not even not understanding as yourself, but people not understanding, people kind of responding to you like, what do you mean? Uh, and the quiet healer says the city is a mess. It needs a huge saging.
Yes,
We need to have a big sage parade. Everybody walk around holding a sage. That's a great idea. Never thought of that. Sage the city.
change helps, but we also gotta change what people are doing every day.
Right, right. Well, I think, the thing behind Sage, I think a lot of the thing behind Sage is intention, right? I mean, it's
Yes.
it's really the intentions that you're setting and the energy that you're putting in there. Um, by the way, I for the people that you brought to the show, thank you very much. By the way, some of your family or your people are out there. Spiritual Samurai, anyone who's watching the show for the first time, I have this. Hold on a second, I got to pick it up without ringing it. I have this cool bell here that if you subscribe to my YouTube channel and you tell me in the comments, I will ring that bell. It's worked a couple times. I've actually gotten one or two subscribers with that little gimmick. but anyway, so awesome. Tell me a memorable story of your adventures of intuiting for people. Is there anything that sticks out in your head, that like an experience that you've had that just really blew your mind?
I've worked with some people, like, one-on-one, I guess, kind of coaching them through their experiences.
Hmm.
Um, I'll see. Gonna jump a little bit from that topic, as something else just popped into my head.
Okay,
Like,
great.
very interesting experience because I also do past life regressions,
Okay.
and what goes on with me most often, not all the time, but I end up when my client is, like, laying in the chair experiencing their meditation, I'm watching where they're going
Mhm.
in their meditation. So, because they're in a trance, but they're not asleep. So they're still talking to me, and I'm in my head following them wherever they go, so I can describe where they are. And a lot of them get a kick out of I'm telling them what they're looking at, and
I was just gonna say, so you're
get excited,
visually seeing the same thing that
and
they're
I'm
seeing.
literally seeing what they're seeing.
Wow.
And so, and some of this is just like, I feel like that's to me, like, that's the most amazing, because there they are in a chair, kind of asleep, and I can see in my head what they're looking at. And
Wow.
I'll tell them what I'm seeing in their vision, and they'll be like, I see that too. Or when they come out of the meditation, like, I'll write it down, like, this is what I saw. And they're
Mhm.
just like, yes, I was experiencing that, and I just wasn't saying it. And I'm like, I was like, because I follow you. I follow you where you're going, because you're not doing this alone.
Wow.
Most often. Doesn't happen all the time, but I'm just fine. Like, with the clients I've had, I find that also fascinating, that I'm with you in my mind. Where
So
go
what
wherever
how does that happen? What is there something specific you need to do in order to do you have to think like, okay, I'm get like close your mind and say, I'm getting in that car now. I'm gonna be following like how do you do that?
I do that because, I guess, sort of like as a level of protection, because it's like, if I feel and see something that they're gonna experience that I don't like, we don't have to go there.
Mhm.
Or just to make sure, they'll say, I guess, they're not gonna get kind of in trouble in their meditation.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
never quite happened, but it's also just the intention, like, I want them to feel comfortable. Like, we invite family members in, angels in, but it's like, but I'm there too. So it's
Right.
like, I'm just not here sitting next to you, directing you where to go. I'm watching what's happening.
Right. Right. And obviously you're interacting with them through those spirits, right? Or are
Yeah,
they interacting themselves with those spirits?
they're interacting themselves, but so am I because I also
Mhm,
get to have conversations with their spirits who decide to tag along while we do this.
mhm, mhm. Wow.
Which I can't explain how I do that. I don't know if you wanna call it, like, psychic ADD, because as I said, like, as I'm talking to my own clients, I'm having my own conversations in my head, and I don't quite understand how I can follow multiple I can't follow, like, 20 conversations, but I can still follow
Right.
maybe 5 conversations at once and still be up to par with all of them.
Wow.
But I think that's a family trait because other family members have described that they can do that too, but I haven't met another psychic or medium who can hear multiple voices and still follow what they're all saying at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, your technique definitely sounds a bit unique to yourself. So are you talking to multiple spirits at the same time for that person,
Yes.
or wow,
And
wow.
sometimes even when I'm with a client, sometimes it's not I'm talking to another spirit unrelated to the client, they just want me to also be involved in something else, which I'll say at first I didn't want to do that, but I'm like, but I'll say, but I can do that and just store that, like, compartmentalize that conversation for a later time.
Something that might be relevant for some other reason, right?
Yes, or whoever's maybe I'm going to see later, and because I mean, which is like, but I'm like, I'll say I'm shocked at myself. I'm like, how do I do that? That like multiple conversations at once in my head and still be able to follow through.
Right.
Mostly, some things also pop into my head that oh, I must have received this when I was channeling spirit earlier, but it doesn't hit me or I'm not aware of it until
Right, right, right.
there's
I've
a
heard that too, yeah. I've
then there's
heard
a
that too.
conversation in my head that I'm like, "Wait, where did this come from?" But I'm like,
Right,
"Oh, maybe it's because of earlier," which
right.
sometimes makes it hard when I don't have a client in front of me and I'm just trying to live life, and, like, now there's a conversation in my head that I'm running through, so
And you don't know why.
and I don't know why, and I
Right,
have to
right.
remind myself this probably was a download from earlier that I'm just running it through in my head now, and I appreciate anyone who's in the room with me who just tolerates me being out in space for a little while.
Interesting, interesting. I should start taking some notes on the different the similarities and the differences between the psychic mediums techniques, because I know some psychic mediums actually, if they know they're going to be speaking to a client later, they'll try specifically to contact somebody beforehand to kind of prepare themselves, or they'll take notes, during the day or something like that. I've seen so many different techniques.
I don't
Uh,
intend that. I usually it's because otherwise,
just happens.
it just I wait for the moment and then it just happens. And
Right,
if I happen to, because sometimes ideas pop into my head during the day before I see somebody, I'm like, all right,
right.
I'll write it down, but it may not even be for them. It's
You
just
don't know
whatever
why,
came
right,
in my
right,
head.
right.
But I also have a rule set where I don't want spirit bothering me until pretty much the moment of the reading. And a quick story I do like to tell is my father came to visit me one day at my apartment, and I had a side door, and he came in through the side door, and he told me, it's like, you have a line of spirit like lined up down the side of the house.
Waiting
And
outside.
and he said, "What's going on?" And I said, "They're all for the clients who aren't here yet." And my rule set is they can't come in until their loved one is here.
Oh
So
my
they're
god, that's
waiting.
hysterical.
So, but it's just awesome that my father came one day and he says, "You got a line of people waiting out here."
That's hysterical. It's like you got this spiritual sign outside, like closed until,
Yes, and they're waiting.
your office hours are written in spiritual light. So let me ask you a question. Do you like doing the group readings better or one-on-one? Oh wait, we got some comments here that before you answer that. The quiet healer, I take notes during the day and only if spirit is persistent. And
Sometimes spirit is persistent. They really want me to say specific stuff, and but the human aspect of me is like, okay, I'll write this down because I don't know if I'm going to remember it or if I'm going to hear it
right.
when the person is here. Because sometimes when that person is sitting in front of me, they're nervous, and it changes the energy field. So what was once a very clear picture becomes a little fuzzy,
Mhm.
because either they're nervous or anxious or really waiting and
Interesting.
hoping on something specific,
Right,
and they're holding on to the energy, not letting it go,
right.
and so it makes the image in my head fuzzy. So like sometimes they're aware that it's going to happen, so that's why they'll show up
Mhm,
early
mhm.
to be like, "You're
Interesting.
gonna say this, and this, just so you know." And it's just like, "All right, now go back outside because I don't want 50 spirits doing this to me all day."
Interesting. Yeah, that's funny. I'm not sure what this was referring to, the spiritual samurai. Felt that it was very intense for me. I'm not I think that might have been when you were talking about the line outside, uh, the door, and when you were talking about that, I was seeing, like, a Far Side cartoon, like, you know, a psychic inside and this d line of spirits outside and something. I gotta something will come funny out of that somewhere. I don't know, but so the question, I'm sorry, was group readings or one-on-one?
I do like the groups, mostly because, I like talking to people and I like bouncing off of people, and it is also quite interesting when the person I'm speaking to has no idea what I'm talking about, but everyone else around them does.
Yeah,
So I
I've
love
seen
those
that.
moments because sometimes when it's private, when they don't know what I'm talking about, it's either over their heads or they're just blanking out in that moment. And my I hope that it makes sense to them later on. But it's just hilarious when because it's a funny moment when everyone else is like, yeah, yeah, yeah. The person I've been tending for has no idea has no idea what the word what this means or who it is, but
Mhm.
everybody else does. And I always find that hilarious. It's like
That is funny.
everybody else knows
I
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I've been I went early on when I first, became started becoming friends with different psychic mediums and attending readings. I was mostly attending them, like filming them. I was like on the camera crew and that's really kind
Oh,
of
that's cool.
I was outside, but if I actually sat in a reading, I think once or twice I got read, and I remember I was very nervous. And so when I was being asked, does this make any sense or does that make any sense? It didn't at the time because I just couldn't place it. But then later I was like, oh, wait a second, this did make sense. And bam, there was the answer. I mean, I certainly was a skeptic at some point, but at other points I had just seen too many validations, to deny it. And I've had a couple of different experiences too where I've momentarily felt like I was crossing realms, kind of existing in multiple realms at the moment. Um,
It's an
and
amazing feeling.
it's amazing. Oh yeah,
Can be intimidating, but, I find it to be amazing.
it absolutely is. It absolutely is. And I'll quickly divert into one of the stories because I just love it, and I might have told it here before, but there was these beads hanging on my mirror when I was driving from Linda Newson, who I have to have on the show again. She lost her son to an overdose and
Mm,
created a foundation called the Beating Hearts, and they created these beads, and they create them for parents of people who have lost a son or a daughter to an overdose. And I held on to the beads because they were swinging at a light, and I had just called Linda and left a message on her phone, and I suddenly was holding hands with Adam, who was her son, and I had never met Adam. I met her way after the fact and everything, and it was just an interesting experience. He had a message for me about the beads and talking to her, and I called her back later, and it was just an amazing experience. Like you
aw.
just said, it was just like I was like, wow, what just happened? Like that was something I can't explain. There was just a feeling, in my car at a stoplight, and then suddenly, surrounded by bright light and just somewhere else. And it was probably momentary, but felt like an experience, felt like I can talk about it. I can describe connecting to this person that I never met, which was pretty awesome.
It's pretty
Um,
awesome, and it although maybe only seconds here, but you're somewhere else where time doesn't exist, and it could be a whole day, honestly,
yeah,
and,
yeah.
in our time, it's for a moment that you're stopped at a light.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, absolutely. So the reason that I asked you the group readings versus the one-on-one was because you said you're having conversations with the person, the human, and then you're also having conversations with the spirit or multiple spirits at the same time. I can't imagine at a group reading how many conversations you must be having. I mean, what does that feel like?
A lot. I've also learned to, I'll say, be a little more adamant on, okay, like half the room's got to be quiet because otherwise it's just noise. because it just becomes so much noise. But I've done a lot of large groups, and those, like, again, I've learned over time that how much I'm in control of what's going on in my head, and if I tell them one person at a time, they have to talk
Mhm,
to me one person at a time.
mhm.
Because yes, when I'm in a group, because I've been in groups of like 80 people, and I was like,
Wow.
I can't be hearing, three people for every one person in front of me, because that's just nuts. But and they do,
Yeah,
spirit will, will do that. Will do that for you if you set the boundaries.
that's funny. I'm smiling and I'm laughing to myself because I'm imagining you in a room full of people like human beings and doing this reading, but then there's this astral version of you going, "Shut up!" telling everyone to shut up because like the teacher in a class full of noisy kids. I don't know why I'm picturing that, but that's what I'm
Oh, that's a good
picturing.
that's a good description.
Yeah.
'Cause every so often I do encounter a spirit who is really anxious to say something, really wants to get something across, and they can't really wait, so they'll bug me.
Mhm, mhm,
And sometimes they'll start poking at me, or like pushing my back, saying, I need to say something to you.
mhm.
And I often have to say, it's not your turn. You got to wait for me to finish this message
Right,
before we move on to you. And some of them, like, I do have to sometimes end up telling the group I'm in, it's like, I have to stop because this another person, it just won't leave me alone,
right.
or won't follow the rules. And because I tell spirit often, like, everyone, like, stand against the wall, we'll get to you like one person at a time.
Oh,
For the
that's great.
time allotted we've got, like, I'll get to as many as we can.
Right, right. That's
But
great. And,
the
I hear
private
that.
ones, I'm sorry.
No, no, go ahead.
But the private ones, like, I enjoy them as well, because with the private ones, usually they want to, they get more time, and we
Mhm,
can go in so much more depth.
mhm,
Because there's some things I do explain to groups that I'm not going to do this to reveal your deepest, darkest secrets in front of a group. It's like, that's not what I'm here for.
mhm, mhm,
But on a private one, like, people often tell me, like they want me to tell them
mhm.
everything I can see and get. And some things, okay, it's just you and me.
Right,
We can go a little deeper with this.
sure.
So those are enjoyable in that sense, on a different level.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and you know what? You bring up a good point. I'm surprised because, I mean, in a group reading, there is a lot of overdose things and personal things, suicides and things that people don't necessarily want to discuss in front of a group. But I think there's also this kind of community respect of everybody knows that they're there for a reason, to connect
Yes,
with a loved one. And so, even however horrific the story is, I mean, you hear some pretty horrific stories, but I think the energy in a room like that is so compassionate, you know what I mean? That it's never like, oh my God, there's no judgment, really,
exactly.
no matter how horrific the story can get. And I think that's a great thing that says a lot about the community and the kinds of people who come to these things. Um, cool. So I want to talk about a couple of light things before we talk about some of the things we mentioned as we were talking before the show about the where we're at, in the state of the world, uh, what's up outside of us as well as what's up inside of us. How we deal with that, I guess. Um,
Oh, there's a lot going on in the world, and also just energetically speaking, not even physically speaking.
yeah, well, okay, so you know what? We're past the halfway point. We could turn the conversation to that. What is going on in the world? Tell me what your thoughts are on that, because I think there's so many. There's no doubt that something's going on, right? People cannot deny in any way, shape, or form that something's going on, whether they're stuck in their three-dimensional paradigms and there's something going on with politics and with the media and with the corporations in the 3D world. So, you can't deny it on any D level that something's going
Yeah.
on, right? Something going on across all the D's. So let's talk about that.
So what I see in that is, we're experiencing just what they keep calling a massive shift. It's simply the 3D stuff can't coexist with 5D stuff in the
Mhm.
same way. And but it's happening. It's already shifting, because I'll say, on an individual level, I say everybody's pretty much fed up with the way things had been running, going, and trying to provoke change, which is really how it's all going to be in a physical sense. But the
Mhm.
ideas come energetically, and we're witnessing everything. Just the ripple effect is what affects over here is has to affect over there,
Mhm.
and there's pushback because some people don't like change and some people are simply resisting the 5D aspect of it. But
Right.
simply we're shifting all into 5D, and this is just we're just watching this unfold, because in 5D, which is a higher vibration, the lower vibrations can't exist here.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
we have to have the physical manifestation of this being worked out some shape or form, whether it's something big that has to get everybody's attention. And so we all act on this collectively, as you know, as a society, to say, okay, we're not going to do this anymore. We're
Mhm.
moving into another way of thinking, and that's really what this is.
Right. Right. So okay, interestingly enough, I kind of I feel like that's something that, especially the way you just phrased it, is something that I've felt for a very, very long time since I'm very young. And I think in my head, I'm a big science fiction fan, and in my head, it was movies like Independence Day, where all of a sudden, the earth is under attack from huge alien race, and we look at each other and we say, "Oh shit, we're a race of beings. We're not whites and blacks and lesbians and transgenders and Republicans and Democrats and all of these labels and all of these things that we've put on." And in my head, as a 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, I was saying that's what it's going to take, for us to be connected. And now, you know 2020 comes, and COVID, and I'm like, oh, maybe that's what, maybe that's the thing that will unite us. And I feel like it could have, but it was used as a divisive tool, in a way, you know what I mean, to divide us, because then now it wasn't just Republicans
That
and Democrats, it was
that and
vaccinates
everything
and
going on during then was also meant to split us apart,
right,
to
right.
point out things that have, that are old news and not everybody's moved on from it. But
Mhm.
yes, it's meant to separate everybody, because
Well, so what's it going to take to get us together? Even though, I mean, it's an amazing time to be alive. I
oh yes,
agree with that. I totally agree with that, and I'm asking you, even though I have my own ideas, and I certainly, my foundation is love. I believe in love, and that's.
which is exactly what I was going to say. It's to remind us that, it's to cut the bullshit. And it's like we really do love each other. It's really, but we're just so in tune and involved with, we're not like not doing so,
Mhm.
so in tune with, like, just because we don't see the same way or think of it the same way, that there's something wrong with everybody else.
Right.
And we keep going, but what I observe is we keep going back to, yeah, we kind of all, like, we all just really want to get along and have the peaceful life,
Mhm.
and but we just keep tripping on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we need to learn to trust each other, and I think it's so hard for somebody like me, and I'm sure you and the people who listen to this show, to even relate to not loving each other. You know what I mean? Like, how does that happen? How do you look at somebody else and feel so disconnected from them that you're going to judge them, and you're going to, you know uh
Because what I see is part of the reason everybody's waking up and becoming sensitive, because this is how we'll communicate that.
mhm,
When you're in front of a stranger, have no idea who they are, but you're getting a feeling of vibe off of them that they're okay, they're cool, then
mhm,
there's nothing to be afraid of, because
right.
you're feeling this vibe that they'll say that will communicate to you pretty much the story going on. And we're just in the stages where everybody's just waking up and being aware of it. They're not used to it yet, but they're aware of it. Because if the person over there who's a stranger, but yet they feel okay, then there's nothing to be afraid of.
I think you bring up a really important point. When the power of love overcomes the love of power, we will see peace. I love that saying. Um,
Because
I think
really,
you're.
that quest for peace and, dominance in one way or the other is all out of fear that there's not enough, and they feel like they feel like others feel like they need to be above everything. And but my perspective is, but they're always chasing after this because it's really not what it's really not what should be happening, and it's not
Right.
sustainable.
Right.
Because if it
So
was sustainable, it'd be so easy.
right, right. Well, here's an extension on what you were saying, and I think a good point. And again, I think that the saving grace of humanity, that if I can come up with this thought in my head, then it exists, right? And that is that the idea you just said of more people are becoming aware of being able to sense other people's vibes, right? Oh, that guy's cool. I don't have to worry about that guy. Oh, that guy, he's a little tense. Take that to the next level and say, ooh, if I can sense what these people are feeling, or how they feel to me, they can sense how I feel to them. So I need to be accountable for the energy that I put out and the things that I think and the way that I behave, because
Yes,
that's where it starts, right? It is people saying, I need to put out love. I need to be loving and understanding, because that person might sense that I'm not, you know what I mean?
but
And
it's not impossible, but it's difficult because to be in that position where you can send out the love is like you have to love yourself truly and honestly and be comfortable with yourself.
mhm,
And a lot of people are not.
okay.
They're not comfortable with themselves.
Oh,
Therefore, they're disconnecting from their love from themselves. Therefore, they won't see it in anybody else because they're not connected in themselves truly. And this universe is a program to you get what you focus on. If you're focusing on the
mhm,
disconnect you have within you, you won't recognize the connection in everybody else because that's simply where you're at. Where you're
right.
operating at is simply how you're going to view the world is where you're operating at.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Absolutely. We're getting some really good comments. So you're bringing me to a good point in this conversation, and a good question for you. Being who you are and understanding these things, what's your advice to people? Like, how can when you see somebody who isn't aware that they can help raise the vibration of the collective, come up with some advice. Tell me what you would tell them. How can you make them
Why
how can you make them aware, first of all, that there is even a collective that will be affected by them raising their vibe?
I personally don't feel like explaining that would do any good because they're not going to walk away knowing what that is. I feel like the
Okay.
advice I would give is to help them find their center, help them find their self-love. That's
Mhm,
really the only starting point we need because once they're there, a lot of other things will fall into place,
mhm.
make sense because
Million percent.
their perspective will be simply based on what that they know themselves and they love themselves completely, and which is a lot of work.
So that's a better question. Where does that advice start? What's the biggest block you see for
Is
people who
people don't want to do that.
people don't want to do
They
that?
don't. They're whether I don't want to go into they're either afraid of it, they don't know what it is, they don't know what it is to center themselves and truly they don't understand what truly loving themselves is. They don't know what connecting to themselves are. They always feel like so many people believe it's external, that they have to find it outside of them and they don't understand spirit. My guys have told me forever that it's all within us
Mhm,
is our
mhm,
connection and
mhm,
it's not external. It's
mhm,
nice that we create external things to reference and
mhm,
remind us, but it really all starts with us.
mhm,
And if we choose, because it's always our choice, we have the free will. If we choose to disconnect from the inside energy, let's say, then it's not right or wrong. It just is what it is.
mhm,
Because also, my God, Spirit has always told me like it's simply always our choice. There is no right or wrong in this. It's just simply where do you want to go with it?
mhm.
What experience are you creating for yourself? So, to explain to people who have no background in this whatsoever, yes, it's a little challenging, but it's really just my conversation is like, how do you feel about you? And
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
not it's not about anything that is outside of you.
Joseph, I couldn't agree more with you. I think I know for a fact, for me, how much my life changed when I was able to reflect back love from a mirror. Like, like, I realized at one point that when I would walk by a mirror and even just catch a glimpse of myself, that I didn't love that person, unconditionally. I mean, I like that person. I thought some cool things about that person, and I think I thought some not so cool things about that person. And when I was able to look in the mirror and truly recognize myself and love that, my life changed 1,000,000%. So again, my question for you is do you have advice for people on how they can look at themselves that way? Like what?
I do want to, like, from my perspective again, is if you all could look in the mirror and work on loving yourself, which does not mean you can still love yourself and still want to make changes.
Mhm, 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 mhm,
Because the fact that you want to make a change, better yourself in some shape or form, means I love myself, so and myself deserves something else. But work on the feeling of deserving it and the feeling of, because some people look in and they feel like just because something's not right or something's not perfect in their eyes, therefore they're not worthy or deserving of that self-love.
mhm, mhm,
To me, this becomes a very deep psychological conversation,
mhm,
because
mhm.
just to tell them that you have the ability and the power to make all this change in the world, it doesn't mean anything to them because they don't connect to that.
Right.
It's really just you have to. It starts with that. I'll say lighting the fire within that. Um, One, you are connected to everything around you, and it all starts with you again. And
Mhm,
if you love
mhm,
yourself, the universe has to reciprocate with continuing reasons for you to feel this way.
mhm, mhm,
Because
mhm.
that's always what manifestation is you're constantly getting what you're focusing on.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, being your authentic self and cultivating compassion and kindness. Yeah, it's just funny because I'm in this conversation with you. I'm seeing these comments, and it's like, yeah, I understand this 1,000,000%, and it's hard to explain to someone who is not ready to receive that information. They're kind of caught up in their ways. I'm recently trying to. Deal with a situation where I'm like, no, no, how you respond to the world around you, even though it may seem like it's falling apart and on fire, you're still responsible for how you respond to it. You don't, the whole idea of I'm a cynic because of the world around me, is you're saying, I'm saying no, you're choosing to react to the world around
Well,
you by
it
being
is.
a cynic.
It comes to we are responsible for everything going on in our lives, 100%, based on
100%.
how are we responding and how are we feeling about it all.
Right. 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 Absolutely. So Fun Mommy says you can be a tuning fork and bring people up to your frequency uh, by being intentional on putting out your energy, and
Yes,
and
you
that,
can, but when
and
you
that
do
works
that,
both
you attract.
ways.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
No, no, that's fine. But that's what I was talking about because it works both ways. If you are kind of stuck as being cynical and kind of putting out that energy, those are the kinds of things you'll experience, and you might not even realize that you're causing it. You're just saying, well, I'm just experiencing more of those things, and that's why I'm so cynical. It's like, nah, I don't think you quite get
Yes.
it.
They don't, people like that don't understand, but they're basically
Up their
creating it for
shadows.
themselves. They're on the frequency to attract all the reasons to be miserable.
Hmm.
Therefore, misery is just continuing, the continuing program.
Hmm.
If they change the vibration that they're at, the program adjusts with the new vibration, and you're receiving whatever's on the next level,
Hmm.
or whatever higher level you bring yourself to be. Your experience is always based on the vibration that you're at. It doesn't matter what's going on in the world, because if you let every little thing bother you, then there'll always be continuing little things to bother you, to be in the back of your mind, basically nagging at you. But
So
as you said, it works the other way too.
right. So here's a good question for you, and I have kind of wrestled with this. Is that all right? Like, in other words, so you see someone or I see someone being a cynic, and I just want to tell them how they cannot be a cynic because for me, I can only imagine what that feels like, right? And it doesn't feel good, like watching them be so cynical. But is that all right? I mean, it's got to be all right to let them just be that person that they want to be. Because if
Yes. I've asked my guys, and my guy says if that's where they want to be, it's perfect.
right,
Because
right,
you're not in charge of them.
right,
I'll say you're not meant to heal someone unless they want to be healed. They
no,
may present themselves to you in that way, but it's also take it as a grounding moment to say, like,
mm,
okay, not everybody wants to be where I'm at. and it's perfectly fine.
I just took that moment. I just was like, yeah, you know what?
Exactly.
I'm always like, oh man, you shouldn't be that way, but no, you should. You
They
should
should
be.
be that way.
You should be
If
that
they
way.
wanna be that way, they should be that way.
Yeah, exactly. You just,
'Cause
I love,
I
I
teach
love the comments, and I thank you guys so much for being here with us in the conversation and putting yourselves into it. Thank you guys. I really can't tell you how much that
I
means to me.
like that. Pour as you drink and drink as you
Yeah.
pour,
Oh, I love it.
because I also teach, a class on, manifestation, and that's basically the
Mhm.
gist of it. 'Cause I've had long conversation with my guys and masters and about how do I talk to people about this, and it's just, like, I'm not he like, when I teach the class, like, I'm not here to tell you to make everything bright and shiny and rosy and rainbows. I said, "It's up to you what you do with this,
Right.
because it is purely our will and our purely what do you want to experience." My job is just to describe to my clients, like, well, this is how you understand that you're in control of whatever it is you're creating.
Mhm.
That's the whole point, is you're in control of this experience. If
Mhm.
you want to experience misery, go ahead. There's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want. What I
It's
encounter is people
great.
are there and they don't understand why
Yeah.
they're there. They don't know how to get out. They don't know they don't understand that they're creating this for themselves.
Right.
Um, so once they have that knowledge, then again, do whatever what do you want with it. But because I'm my point with like my class is just to give people the fundamentals, like this is how the universe works,
Right.
and you attract what you're thinking about. And if you're happy there, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Right.
If you're
No,
finding happiness in the misery, then that's perfect.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I've known people like that, and again, struggled with it, but then really, it's like I walk away because, well, hey, that's not my struggle. You know what I
No,
mean?
it's not. And with my observations with people who are vibrating higher, I'll say if you vibrate higher than the people down here, it's not sustainable. It's too different of a frequency. The universe will remove them from your picture and
Mhm.
vice versa because you can't coexist so much.
Right. Right.
But that's what's really also going on in the world. We have so many people, so many different vibrations and wavelengths. Some of them can coexist with each other. Some of
Mhm.
them are coexisting because they're vibrating very close.
Right.
And
Right.
it's a big world, and there's room for everybody at all their different frequencies.
Ooh, I just got the chills. I got a great vision of cymat. You know what cymatics is?
Yes,
So the way that the vibrating plate, all the sand kind of goes
separates,
into the so
makes a pattern.
I just imagine that as people who are on the same frequency, all like kind of gathering together in their little tribes. That's awesome. You put some interesting visions in my head tonight, Joe. I gotta say. So I always forget to do this. I'm going to do this because we got about 10 minutes left, or less than that. But I always forget to put up the website until the end. If you were digging Joe's logic and wisdom and vibe, you can find more at
A
Joseph.
little bit more. That's just a landing page, but you can
A little bit.
contact me.
Well, you can connect with Joseph there, and find more by connecting with Joseph, right?
Yes.
That's probably the best way to do it. And also, you had mentioned you got a couple of things coming up, so now's a good time to talk about that and pitch that. You've got some fairs and some live events.
Let's see. I always have a ton of stuff going on, and I'm surprised I can remember half of it. But this coming Sunday the 30th, I'm working at a fair, the Wellness Expo. That's going to be in Plainview. I'm just looking
What's it
up
called? I'm sorry, I missed the first word. The West
Psychic and Holistic Wellness Expo.
Psychic and Holistic Wellness Expo. Okay,
So it's going to be at the Holiday Inn and Sunnyside Boulevard in Plainview.
awesome.
And the following week, May 7th, I'm going to be at the Four Point Sheridan, I believe, in Plainview for Pat Longo's Psychic Fair. So I'll
Oh,
be there
awesome.
to give readings. I think they're like 15-minute readings, something like that. So
Very
people
cool.
can come and book me if they want a reading. If they want a reading with me.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm surprised Janice hasn't mentioned that to me. Maybe we'll go stop by there and say hello. That would be
And
cool.
later this month, I'm teaching classes in St. James, New York. I do have my vibration class, which I'm teaching manifestation. I also do a feng shui class at St. James Salt Cave. It's called the Stem and Stone Modern Salt Cave.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that one. Is that a new Soul Cave
They're
or?
new. They've only been there, I think, about a year,
Okay, yeah, I haven't heard of them
maybe a little
before.
less,
Wow.
off the top of my head. But so they're new. So and then but they asked me to come and do my thing, which I've been enjoying because I also facilitate on past life regressions there.
Awesome, awesome. So tell me, do you have advice for somebody like me? Because I have tried to do some past life regressions. I'm just going to share your website here for a minute. I have tried to do some past life regressions a few times with some people who I love to death and are very, very connected, Karen Garvey and Glenn Dove. But I seem to have an issue with hypnotism, kind of that kind of level of guidance. I love guided meditation. Like I said, I've had some experiences. It's not like I'm resistant to the idea that there is all of that stuff. Do you have any advice for somebody like me who
You may
might?
not like, I'll say, to be hypnotized, you feel like you're giving up, like, your control,
Mhm,
and there's people who just simply don't like that. They're just
right.
their subconscious goes nuts, where it's
I'm
like,
not really a control freak. I don't, at
we're
least I
not
don't think
no,
I
no,
am.
no, but
Maybe.
that doesn't mean your subconscious
Right.
is not gonna stop
Subconsciously,
you.
maybe I'm a control freak subconsciously. But here's your website. I just wanted to bring it up. So people find out about those events on your website, or you don't update your
No,
website?
I don't usually post. I'm not tech savvy, so but
Mhm.
I don't want to drive my web designer crazy because they'd be changing every week.
Yeah.
But you can find out that information on my Facebook and Instagram.
Okay. And that's just Joseph Darrow on.
Joseph Darrow Psychic Medium on Facebook, and it's Joseph underscore Psychic Medium on Instagram.
Yeah. Oh wow, Joe, I just realized we didn't even get to talk about your visual art aspect, because you are also a visual artist. Do you do gallery shows and stuff like that, or?
I haven't done one. I mean, I've sold a lot of my stuff because some of my stuff
Mhm,
can be spiritually oriented.
mhm,
I
mhm.
haven't done a gallery. I haven't made that happen
Oh, I'm
yet. But
surprised. Wow.
I keep being told I should do something like that because I've also been told some of my stuff is wild. It's to me, can be generic,
Mhm,
spiritually looking pieces or just some pretty things. But
mhm.
it's like it's a passion of mine. I've been an artist all my life. I get that from my mother.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I'm sorry we didn't get to go through this. I love this. I haven't heard this. Jesus loved everyone, but not everyone loved Jesus. I love that. That's such a great saying. Um,
Yes,
and then Tim is saying, embrace what you don't like about yourself and turn negatives into positive. Flaws are really just a spotlight on what you need to refocus the lenses of your mind on. Um,
yes. What
yeah,
you don't like in front of you is an opportunity to change something because you have the ability.
agreed, agreed. And part of the reason I do this show is because I feel like everybody has something to offer. And Tim's been on this show. I think everybody has a story to tell that um, as they're telling it, there's somebody there to receive some part of that story for some reason, some divine reason, right?
Right.
And I think that's great. I really love talking to you. I'm going to have you back on the show to showcase your artwork. Maybe we'll just do a whole episode of showing your artwork and
Oh, that'd be cool.
talking about that aspect of you. But I appreciate you being here so much and talking to me about who you are and what you do and what consciousness is. I hope you had fun. This
I
is
had fun. I would love to come back whenever you want me.
cool, awesome, awesome. Like I said, this is my happy place. I hope you can see why.
I can see
It's
why, because you're
yeah,
also in my mind, you're also glowing, but, like, there's a glow behind you, so
awesome.
I can tell that this is a good spot for you.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't like putting psychics on the spot and going, "So, do you see anything? Who's standing behind me?" So I appreciate you offering up the glow. The glow is my validation. So I appreciate that.
I
Uh,
appreciate you not putting me on the spot.
yeah.
That happens often enough.
Awesome. Let me you know what? I always do this every time. I always forget who the heck I got on the next week because I like to announce that. But you know what? Let me say goodbye to you while I pull up my calendar and I'll see you in a minute. And again, thanks for being here and I will have you back very soon.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you, everyone. Thank you for letting us chat for a while.
Awesome. All right, I'll see you in a bit. I'm just going to bring up my calendar here so that I know who the heck I have on next week. It might be El Pellegrino. I know she's coming up on the show. I got to go to my other email account here and then go to my Google Mail. I know I don't have to narrate what the heck I'm doing here to you guys, but it just helps me uh, do it without getting nervous and saying So I think it is Thursday the 4th is the next one. And yes, it's El Pellegrino is going to be with us. Awesome. El, a lot of you guys might know El. She's pretty prominent in the spiritual community. She has a couple of locations. She had a spa for a while. She has her own show called Age of New Beginnings. That should really be a great, colorful, interesting conversation. I'm looking forward to Elle being here next week. Fun Mommy, thank you for being here. Julie saying thank you. Joseph, and also Fun Mommy saying, don't forget to thank the trees for their support. Hug a tree. It feels good actually to hug trees, and connect with the world. Thank you guys for being here. I hope you guys join me next week for El Pellegrino. And peace. Have a great night. Adios.